Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin Hasbanallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. And surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever and ever. Amen. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Johnny's Bite. This morning, I was thinking heavily because yesterday I realized that the price of medicine beyond the food is also shooting up. And this is happening weekly. So people who have a condition, let's say blood pressure or diabetes, or who have to go for their dialysis because they have kidney issues, they can't afford. I don't want to assume that people are dying because of that, because they can't afford. But just admitting that we're in a crisis and not apologizing for taking us into a crisis in itself is a crisis. Which is why I say the whole country is like a crime scene. Because when you take people into a difficulty, and we are told now, and you see, interestingly, Mr. Nkrumah again is explaining the English with English. His boss spoke English. He's explaining English with English. You remember earlier, the president has spoken about the Aisha 1 issue, whether he was not too sure whether Aisha 1 was repatriated or deported, whatever it is. Now, president is a lawyer. Mr. Nkrumah is a lawyer. Mr. Bujinapo is a lawyer. When a lawyer speaks, I'm sure they think deeply before they do. That's why they are called learned people. They have learned. Mr. Nkrumah on that occasion was explaining to us what the president meant by speaking English. Again, he is on another media tour, explaining again what the president said. The president said there will be no haircuts, treasury bills and all of that. He's now explaining the English. What I know growing up is that when somebody preaches in English, somebody interprets in Fi or Gan, and vice versa. Today, when somebody speaks English, another person explains the English. Who explains English with English? Is either the president didn't understand what he was talking about, he didn't know what he was talking about, or Mr. Nkrumah himself. And like as KKD said, he said speech is supposed to have some compassion, some conviction. The inflection must be right, and there must be a call to action. What was the call to action? Is that trying to make the market women feel, but what was the call to action? Fuel is gone up again. The dollarization is up again. So the market women, when they buy their stuff, they will slap the prices onto it. It not be them do them. But alas, she can't pay the day, so we have to keep quiet. Now, Oliver, put the picture up for me, quickly. The colleges of education are sounding an alarm. Teacher trainees are suffering. You remember that, Dr. Bamia? Teacher trainees are suffering. Here we are. We are being told that the teacher trainees now are requesting, as of yesterday, 31st October, the Honorable Minister of Education, this is from the National Conference of Principals of Colleges of Education, Ghana, PRINCOF. The Honorable Minister of Education, DSA, request for permission to ask students in colleges of education to fend for themselves. There are about 43 of these colleges of education to fend for themselves. I write on behalf of the Conference of Principals of Colleges of Education to seek your approval for principals to ask students to fend for themselves effective Monday, November 7, 2022. And I showed you a video of how these teacher trainees are suffering. We're crumbling for food. Rice and palm soup. They were fighting over it. Koko, don't start, please. You just came back from leave. Principals of colleges have been trying to really hard to feed trainee teachers in recent times as a result of current market trends. Prices of all food items have shot up astronomically, and food suppliers have refused to supply any food items to colleges because the indebtedness of the colleges to these suppliers. A request for an upward review of the feeding grant paid to principals has not been approved, and it has therefore become increasingly difficult for principals to continue to provide 3 meals a day to students at 6 cedis, 50 pesos. Remember, the primary school children are being fed with 97 pesos. Fully grown adults who are being taught to teach others are now fed with 650 pesos, 3 square meal. So technically, 2 cedis per meal. Okay. In light of the above, it is the wish of Prinkoff to be given permission to ask students to start fending for themselves. This is to ensure that the already stretched academic year is not disrupted. Dr. Harriet Naki Amui, Executive Secretary, why did you even waste your time to write this letter? Who feeds adults with 6 cedis 50%? Who? When I told you that the president is not in it with us, he said we are in this together. I said, Mr. President, you are not in it with us. You are on your own. We too, we are struggling. We are down there. Because you don't buy fuel, you don't buy rice, you don't buy oil, you don't buy sugar, you don't buy plane ticket, you don't buy aviation fuel, you don't buy anything. Aside going to funerals and other places to give donations, you don't buy anything. Even that one, it could be generated from interest, unaccounted interest. The teacher trainees who you use for campaign, their principals are now asking to ask them to fend for themselves. Nana dear, he's born to succeed. Nana dear, or a winner. Nana show boy, show working. 6 cedis 50 pesos. I didn't know this. And I'm so pained. But that's not the conversation. Good morning to the education minister. Good morning to the education minister. Good morning to all his deputies and all the big men who wear suits and tie and go to